I'll be happy to answer any questions. If I get any real hard ones, I'll give them to Lo.
Okay, well, again, what I'll do is I'll try and start over here and work my way that way. So if you want to ask a question, raise your hand and I'll be glad to get you the mic.
Thank you, Wayne. Senator McNally, glad to have you here tonight. The weather's been misbehaving today, so I knew it wasn't the easiest thing to get here, but it's great to see you. I do have 3 questions, if you don't mind. The first one being Governor Lee's executive orders. We've had a couple of his executive orders come out in rapid fashion. House Speaker Sexton wanted to have a special session, and the last executive order was kind of put in place, I think, to do away with that need for a special session. But I was told when I got here tonight that you actually put a Facebook post out that said apparently we have some school systems or counties that are not accepting of the governor's executive order. So if that is the case, do you in fact perhaps think we do need a special session to address this mask issue?
And as part of that post, I did recognize that, while there is a safety issue, there's also an issue of parental control. And that I thought that there's been 2 school systems, Shelby County and Davidson County, and they overstepped their authority by saying they wouldn't abide by the governor's executive order. The district attorney for Davidson County has indicated he wouldn't prosecute them for disobeying. I talked with the governor, and we feel like that by the end of the week, or the first part of next week, if they have not seen the light and decided to do what the executive order says, make the wearing of masks, allow parents to opt out of that for their children. If they don't do that, then I think we're going to get with Speaker Sexton. Special session is being one of the options that's on the table.
Okay.
And I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
I just want to say, I heard from people from Chattanooga, Nashville, Johnson City today, and there's a lot of concern. Exec guys can legislate for us, and
Chairman of that.
signed by 16 senators, it kind of feels like you're being pushed in a certain direction, and I just don't think that's what the state or our country is about.
Amen.
And that's something that we would not mandate. It's something that we just thought as a public service that we feel like that the way you can be the safest is by getting vaccinated. Now, there are some conditions in which one shouldn't, and we're aware of those, and also we realize there are some people that object to the vaccine.
Well, before I end on that topic, I want to let you know that there's a place called Gibraltar, which is on the southern tip of Spain. They got 99% vaccinated by June 1st. And since June 1st, they have seen a 2,500% increase in hospital visits with positive COVID cases. That tells me that they actually have people that were vaccinated that are getting COVID once again.
Yes.
So I can't say for a fact that this is gospel, but I think it needs to be looked into before we encourage everybody to get a vaccine.
Amen.
The COVID vaccine, it's definitely not 100% effective in preventing the disease. It does, in cases where people do get the disease, they seem to have a lesser case than ones that don't. And that's what I've read in the literature.
Okay. And the last topic I just wanted to address was election integrity. I think maybe our most sacred right as Americans honest elections. A lot of people have a problem with what happened in November of 2020.
Yes.
I have personally seen twice a presentation that I would very much like, and it was being put on by the John Birch Society, would very much love for you and any other representatives that you could get together. We will meet you wherever you'd like to meet and put on this presentation, because 2 Fridays ago I spoke with Secretary of State Trey Hargett, and he had very little concern over the 2020 election. And based on what I've seen and what I think I now know, even the state of Tennessee had massive voter irregularities in favor of the Democrat.
Fraud.
And as Americans and Tennesseans, we just can't allow that to stand. We may have to go get rid of all the machines. We may have to go to paper ballots. All that can be I think some people in this room may have seen the presentation I saw. But anyway, I'll talk with you about that after the meeting.
I'd like to do that. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Well, can you do that?
Yeah.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Most Tennesseans agree that the overreaching by our federal government is one of the major problems we have nationwide and in Tennessee. Any cause and effect analysis identifies the United States Constitution's 17th Amendment as a primary enabler of that overreach. Now, will you support Frank Nicely's Senate Bill 692, which will reestablish General Assembly control of our U.S. Senate delegation, bringing it back into your hands where it was originally and where it needs to be if we're ever going to control our overreaching federal government?
And that's for the U.S. senators. And that was the process of the original Constitution and was changed during the progressive era. And Senator Nicely, I know him and work with him well, and it's something that he and I have talked about. And I really haven't decided one way or another, because at the time that they made the change, there was a lot of buying of state legislators by certain individuals and candidates. And I think, it's hard to take the right of people to be able to vote for something. And that's the other side of the coin. But it's something that I'd be glad to talk to Frank about. And actually, the bill is still alive and will be until we adjourn in sometime in April, May.
Well, on that line, I would ask you, how can we and how should we help you and your colleagues make up your mind to move in this direction? There is some overwhelming support and reason why the 17th Amendment is the cause of much of our trouble.
And I think it would require a constitutional convention, but it not.
No, it absolutely will not.
Will not.
Frank's Bill 692 is entirely consistent with the 17th Amendment. It respects it completely. It comports to every bit of it. And it exercises your authorities under Article 1, Section 4. It's a question of bringing control back into the state legislature in particular, where it belongs.
I'll discuss it with Frank, and I'll keep an open mind on it. And you asked how you can best get the word out. It would have, I don't think it's passed the House yet, is it?
No, it has not moved in the House and probably will not, Dennis Powers probably will not move it until Frank moves it in the Senate.
Okay, and it's in committee in the Senate?
It was, yes, and he and Richard Briggs deferred it and made I guess a gentleman's commitment to bring it out in probably the third or the fourth week of January. So it is very timely.
Well, I think if nothing else, it sends a good message to our senators that their loyalties belong to Tennessee.
Which is one of the problems that we've had in the past, and Frank has spoken of it significantly, that you guys don't hear from our senators, and because you don't hear from them, they kind of ignore us.
And about the only time we hear from the representatives is during redistricting. So, they like to come around and, hi.
Hello, thank you so much for being here. I had about 3 questions.
Okay.
What is your definition or the governor's definition of state of emergency?
Well, I believe there's some different attorney general's opinions on state of emergency and when the government can enact the executive orders. But it would be for things like disease outbreaks, massive rioting, like they had, I guess probably the last time that I saw it called that was when Martin Luther King was shot, and there were riots right after that. And they actually closed a number of cities, Memphis, and other cities that were having problems, and they had the National Guard. But it would be for those type of things, you know, if there was some type of massive disaster that occurred in Tennessee, like an earthquake that went pretty much over half the state and killed a lot of people. It would be those type of things.
So, based on what you just said, I conclude that Governor Lee, does not have the authority under state of emergency because there is no state of emergency.
There is the outbreak of the COVID virus, and there are deaths that are being caused, and also I think our hospital ICU ventilator beds are, I think we've only got 6% left that can be used for patients. So, it's really something that I think has been defined by the Attorney General and by court cases as to what would constitute.
Not court cases.
But I'm not hearing that there is anything other than the pandemic of COVID.
Right.
And there are more children dying of drowning than from COVID. And there are therapeutics that people can take prophylactically to protect themselves from getting ill. And if they get ill, there are drugs that have been on the market for 60 plus years that will help them recover very quickly. So I feel like Governor Lee has possibly been drinking the punch regarding the promoted mantra of, you know, get the vaccine. But anyway, next question. You said that teaching of CRT has been outlawed and vaccine passports have been outlawed. But in order to outlaw something, you must have teeth in the law.
Amen.
If you put a speed limit on a street and you say don't drive over 35 miles an hour, but nobody writes tickets that have any punitive effect, then everybody will ignore it. And I am aware that there are thousands of teachers that have signed documents stating that they will continue to teach CRT regardless of the law. So my question to you is, where is the teeth in this law?
Well, I'm not sure whether the law has any specific penalties, but there is a general misdemeanor statute that if we declare something is illegal or something that can't be done, then even though it doesn't say, it's a felony or it's a Class A misdemeanor, it falls under the misdemeanor category. Of course, the district attorney would have to go out and arrest the individuals and investigate it and bring it to court. And we found that a number of district attorneys, particularly the one in Nashville, he announced that he was not going to enforce the governor's executive order. That we had a bill last year that we tried, which would have allowed the Attorney General, when a district attorney refuses to prosecute a case, to come in and prosecute it. And the other thing we did that's a sweeping change is, as I mentioned with the abortion statute that we passed, the first time that goes to court, it goes to court in Nashville. And the people in Nashville elect Democrat judges. And they tend, and most of the time I think, will rule against the state. In the case of the abortion statute, it went up to the 6th District Court of Appeals and they upheld it. And it'll go up, I imagine, to the Supreme Court again. But it's something
Concept of executive orders.
You got to hold it.
A little bit closer, is that better? The concept of executive orders. I understand it went through the House and was stalled in the Senate, which is under your watch. So why did the sunset power, or the bill to sunset the executive order power, why did that never come out of committee?
Well, it was in, I think, it was either in judiciary or we're bordered by 7 other states and almost by an 8th, South Carolina. And the federal government is the one that really controls the borders. And I fully agree that we need to enforce the law and we need to be able to send people out. We've enacted things like forbidding cities to be sanctuary cities. We've given the power to police to arrest individuals. I think that there are 2 big problems there.
How about
Thank
we
you.
like Idaho, turn the plane around, don't let it land?
Yes, sir.
How do you do?
Hi.
I am a proud resident of Tennessee for a little less than 2 years, having moved from.
Can't hear you.
Hold it right here.
Oh, sorry about that. I started saying I'm a proud resident of Tennessee for a little less than 2 years, having moved from another communist state to get here. I do have some issues with the governor's executive order 83 that I'd like to address. One of your earlier slides said that COVID recovery in Tennessee is strong, and I agree with that. The amount of infection rate that we have currently is no greater than it was in 2020. The death rate is less than 2%, so recovery rate is in excess of 98%. So the first paragraph in Executive Order 83 doesn't hold water when you look at the own data that is presented. The second statement in there saying you need flexibility in healthcare, it may be necessary, but I don't think Executive Order 83 really does the job right. Your planning would be better. But the third part that was mentioned before is that there's no mention at all about how this state is going to enable the use of prophylaxis or therapeutic treatments for people either to prevent coming down with the disease or to recover from the disease, such as other states are doing. And one of the concerns I have is that another executive order might come out that would restrict our ability to do that. Having said all of that, though, the areas that I find most egregious are Section 14, which could be abused and misused to target people. So one of my questions is, who is that section intended to target?
Or frightened.
I think you're talking about the part of Executive Order 83 that deals with how the disease is transmitted and how to track the transmission of the
No,
disease.
sir. No, sir. I'm dealing, Section 14, Section 14 addresses telephone assessments for involuntary commitment cases. And it's very vague at best and can be abusive and misused at worst. And I think it should be struck from the executive order. The other thing is, are you saying that mental health institutions and drug abuse institutions are hotbeds for COVID in Tennessee? Because that seems to be implied by some other sections of the executive order.
I'd really have to look into this a little bit more because it references other sections of the code that are not in here. But I'll be glad to take a look at it, and if you can leave me your name
What I would like,
phone number.
I would appreciate you looking into it, but I think everybody in here would agree that what we'd like to see is this struck. I have one last area of concern, and that has to do with Section 18, which addresses building temporary
Quarantine facilities.
and isolation facilities. That's also an area that is subject to potential abuse, and it's not very well defined, but also I would submit it's not necessary because of Section 13, which allows various medical facilities to expand their beds and their capabilities. So you don't need to build temporary quarantine and isolation facilities, and that should be struck from Executive Order 83 as well.
And I think that was put in for these temporary hospital facilities, like you saw, I think, in New York, where the beds were all full, and they actually had some temporary facilities.
That they never use.
Which were not used. The Javits Center wasn't used, the ship that Trump sent in wasn't used, the sections, the things that the Samaritan's Purse set up were not used. You don't need it, and it should be struck.
None of them.
I just have one last comment. You've probably heard of H.L. Mencken, and he famously said, "The urge to save humanity is almost always a false face for the urge to rule it." And that's what I'm afraid Executive Order 83 is doing.
Good evening.
Good evening.
John Sackwich, and I'm down here from Fentress County.
Oh, okay.
We come a long way in the rain just to see you.
Hi,
If I
John.
knew who you were, I'd have left you in my seat.
Oh. That's fine, all right.
I appreciate
Your
you
wife
being
told
here.
me to get out.
On what this gentleman had just said, on the fact about the quarantine buildings, it doesn't state in there what they're gonna be used for. It just says that you can build them, period. There is no definition on any of that. And I think that's what he is referring to.
Right.
There is no definition. It's just wide open, so it can be taken any way. The other question that I do have is, I have here from the Tennessee Firearm Association, the bill, here that Tennessee has about carrying a firearm. What was passed was not a constitutional carry. What was passed was a permitless carry. But in the law 39-17-130, it states, it is a crime in Tennessee for the individual to carry a firearm with the intent to go armed, which makes no sense to begin with. Because if you're gonna carry a firearm, you intend to put it on and carry it. And you can be arrested. I could be arrested right now. If I was carrying a firearm without a permit, I could be arrested because this overrides the permit was carried that he passed. Because this is still on the books. What needs to be passed is a constitutional carry. Like
What we did pass was constitutional carry. The only difference between it, the legislation between it and other bills that were out there were that it banned individuals who had been convicted of 2 offenses of drunk driving from carrying, and it banned individuals who had been convicted of kind of following people, stalking. Yeah.
According to this law right here that is on the books, that it says that if I carry a firearm, it is a crime, and I can be arrested because I have the intent of carrying one. Second, was the two parts of this, the question is, was the individual carrying a firearm? Second, did the individual have intent to go armed? Both of these elements are found in the Tennessee code in which I can be arrested.
And was that in the existing law, or was
That was in the law before the hearing.
That did not change it.
And it did not reflect
So-
the existing law.
Yes, sir.
It could be that, depending on what the sections are, that the latest version actually overrode or
It doesn't.
repealed that.
It doesn't.
I don't know, I'd have to check.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Did you go to Mike Lindell's symposium?
Mike Lindell's symposium.
Yes, in South Dakota. I know you were invited because he invited the whole legislative group.
I've not been to South Dakota, so I did not go.
You did not know.
Why?
Well, I don't recall the invitation. Don't
Well,
know.
you were given one, I'm sure. I can't positively say that, but I know that Mike put these invitations out. The other thing that I have to say about that is that kind of gives me the indication that you really don't care about what he had to say. He proved, matter of fact, that there was interference by China in our last election. We need to get that corrected, period. I call for a state audit, a forensic audit.
Forensic audit.
A full forensic audit.
Full forensic audit of every county.
How you doing? I am a 2.5 year resident of Tennessee. I escaped New York. Okay. I have a very important question for you. The lady over there started to ask you about vaccine passports. And one of the highlights you put in your initial presentation was the fact that you passed the executive order or whatever it was, that in state facilities, we would not be required to have a vaccine passport.
That's
okay?
correct.
Today, starting in New York City, okay, you need a vaccine passport to go anywhere, to do anything, to go to a restaurant, a movie theater, to go to a sporting event, a concert, any indoor activity. They have to have a vaccine passport. What's to stop that from happening here? Because you left open a door to all the businesses, the Amazons and everybody else, from coming in and saying, you have to have a vaccine passport, private companies, okay? In Florida, the governor down there said, no vaccine passports, period. We need that here, because I guarantee you, the next thing that's gonna happen is these chain businesses and stuff like that, their corporate offices somewhere are gonna say, oh, no, you can't let people in. So Kohl's, and then Costco, and then Starbucks, and some of the other, Walmart, whatever, you're not gonna be able to go in, so in effect, Tennessee will be required to have vaccine passports, not authorized by the governor. The governor can put an end to that. And because we have all these executive orders, and there are so many questions about so many executive orders, why don't you just call a special session and get the legislature to go ahead and do their work?
That very well might happen. It depends a lot on what happens
Because
in that.
the passports, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because it's already happening in other states.
Yes.
Well, I don't think it's happened in Tennessee and.
In Nashville, right now.
Hear what I'm saying. Give it time. You're not hearing what I'm saying. You're saying in the state facilities, it's not gonna happen,
Right.
okay? But any business out there tomorrow can wake up and say, oh no, you can't come into my business without a vaccine passport, because you, the governor,
left it
okay,
open.
has allowed that.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of time before that happens. I'm waiting to go to Costco and have the gal there say, where's your passport? I said, well, I don't have it. And they say, no, you can't come in here. And you know it's gonna happen, and it's only a matter of time.
It already is in Opryland.
In Nashville, there's a
Yep.
facility that requires vaccine passports to enter.
Yes.
Opryland.
Mr. Kelly here escaped the communist state of Connecticut 12 months ago next month. I have watched I'm a 44-year-old who grew up, we call him a damn Yankee down here, and I love that. I grew up in my home state. I walked out, my first trip to Tennessee was when I bought my house last year. I walked and left everything I knew because the same stuff the Republicans are allowing in Tennessee went on there.
Yep.
And I prepared some comments. I want to thank all the folks who stood up because they covered most of my points. And what I don't want to do is be disrespectful to you because you were kind enough to spend your time down here. And I thank you for that. What I want to do is give you some feedback. I've been active in politics. That worthless Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut runs for me when he sees me. Yeah, he is worthless, along with the other one who's a valor thief on Vietnam. I watched my state go to the toilet to where a third of Connecticut residents are on minimum wage. A third. I've watched these small towns, the entire Main Street is empty. I've watched this stuff, and I'm going to say my comments. I'm not here singling you out. This is a general feedback to the Republican Party. I live in Farragut. I have Representative Zachary and Senator Briggs. I will never vote for either of them ever again.
Amen.
And the reason for this is Mr. Zachary's different. I followed him on Facebook, and I've watched him shove stupid nonsense in our face like we are, for example, we passed constitutional carry. Actually, you didn't. Because there's still some issues with it. It's not 18. It's not all guns. It was better than what we have, and we respect that, and things go incrementally. But when my representative gets on Facebook and gaslights us, saying, oh no, it's constitutional carry. I'm not an idiot. Our constituents are not idiots. And there's a lot of people, contrary to the belief, most of the people moving down here from blue states are people like me who share 95 to 99% of the values of everyone born in Tennessee. We just want to get away from that. And what these Republicans are doing by allowing Bill Lee to be a dictator, Governor Lee to be a dictator, by telling us, we stopped vaccine passports. No, you only did part of it. When the Republicans, like Representative Zachary, like Representative Briggs and other people, when they go out and tell us something that we know is not true, we understand what's going on, and we're not stupid. And we take very much offense to this. And there's a war going on. I've been involved in it. I've been involved in it for over 10 years. We almost won the governor's seat. They stole it in Connecticut like they do every time with counting ballots at 3 o'clock in the morning in the 3 major cities. This is the stuff that they do. And people there's a lot of people who have been here a couple of years. We understand what is coming our way. And the worst thing the Republicans in Nashville can do is tell us something that we know is not true and just give it to us over and over again. There are a lot of us. We're not I don't know what the numbers are down here, but people are living There's no more of this. I had a mom call me today from the Nashville area in Wilson County, so that's Mount Juliet and Lebanon. Her child is 13 years old, went to school today, refuses to wear a mask. They demanded to know whether he was vaccinated. He's 13 years old. This shot from COVID, any of them, have not been approved by the FDA. They're an emergency use only, and it's certainly not appropriate for children under 18. They asked this child this and then locked them in a room with Zoom and left them there all day. And where do you go with that? And again, I understand politics is difficult. Not all these Republicans in Nashville believe in what the party does, but I'm just sharing with you how angry people are. And what's going to happen is these people are going to show up and vote. They're going to vote out some of these people. I have said here, I will not vote for Jason Zachary ever again. I'm a conservative. I'm a very conservative person. But specifically gaslights people, tells them something we know is not true, and does this kind of nonsense. And that hurts the party. The Republican Party is hands down the best party in this country. What we were founded on and what we have stood for of individual freedom. And we need the Republicans in Nashville, stop with forgive my language, the half-assed stuff with the vaccine passports. Go all the way. You can't allow an employer to make somebody take something that we're still testing. If you want to take it, that's your business. I'm just reading the information. It hasn't been approved. The testing is going on now. This is what the FDA and the CDC say on their own website. Protect us from this. Protect our children from these face masks where they're smothering themselves and sealing their carbon dioxide all day. It's hurting these kids. Stop letting people like Martha Buchanan shut down businesses in the city of Knoxville, which she did. Thankfully, she's now gone. These are where the people are. And I'm sorry for going on for so long, but people are so angry. And I think that Governor Lee and the Republicans in Nashville are really misreading this. Yep. And I thank you for listening to that.
I'm not an expert when it comes to medical procedures and so forth, but I do know that this is not a vaccine. I resent people referring to it as a vaccine because it is being used under emergency certification, which was obtained illegally. You cannot, by law, you are not supposed to be able to obtain an emergency certification if there's an alternate treatment or a cure for whatever you're getting that emergency certification for. And there is ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine that's been around for over 60 years that is proven and known treatment. Fauci admitted he knew it, so did Bill Gates, and they villainized, and we have lost hundreds of people, deaths, due to this vaccine. And I want to say that if you look at the large report, or the mayor's report, it has reported over 500,000 serious adverse effects to the vaccine. And I resent my politicians trying to push a vaccine on me that has not been tested on humans. This is an experimental vaccine. Also, this business of deaths over COVID, as of May 17th, CDC revised their numbers and admitted that 94% of the deaths that were reported as COVID deaths were not COVID deaths. Only 6% were attributed to COVID. The rest of them were because of other conditions. I had friends that died of a motorcycle accident, but on his death certificate, it says he died of COVID.
Do they get money for it?
I do not want this shot pushed on me or anybody else. And I think our politicians need to protect the Tennesseans from this overreach.
Thank you for showing up.
You're welcome.
Short question maybe with a follow-up depending on the answer. Do we have E-Verify in Tennessee?
Yes.
E-Verify, I believe we do.
Believe we do, or we do?
Well,
Yes or no?
I don't know. I can't give you absolute answers.
Low. Do we?
Yes, so the federal government had it at 50 employees, and we lowered it to 25 employees last year, or in 2019, I believe.
Okay, because if we didn't, there's E-Verify in Florida. I've got the state rep's name, which I'll give to you, either one of you, so you can check. I heard him on, I don't know, Xbox.
So we tried to lower it to 5 employees or more, and something happened where we didn't have the votes, so we was able to lower it to 25.
Well, he was saying that they tried, and he said, this time we got it right. So I got this man's name
Yeah, they
of this time we got it right.
They
I'll
locked
give
up
it
the
to
rep.
One of you too.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jerome. I just want to kind of put out a quick plea. I'm tired of all the Simon Says. Way back in whatever, when we first heard the word, I started researching. I spent 5-6 hours a day. Most days, sometimes more, researching what's going on. My problem is I hear so much Simon Says. Literally, every time I go to a doctor's office now or hospital, I ask anybody I come in contact with, because they got all kinds of rules. Where's the science? I keep hearing the science. Every one of them say they haven't showed us any. I'm asking for the peer-reviewed studies. I find them, but they don't support what the narrative is. The thing that really blew me away, because my sources from day one have been Worldometer for world statistics, Johns Hopkins, and Stanford. I've used it forever. There's more contrary to the narrative from Johns Hopkins, Stanford, whatever, World Health Organization, totally against lockdowns. But the one that blew me away, a friend of mine sent it to me, from the CDC, there was this thing of, saying masks work and social distancing work and blah, blah, blah. There's all this Simon Says. There was 186 studies. I am diligently looking through this, trying to find something that's, actually peer-reviewed. The point is, there was a big, just before you got to the 186 sources, it says none of this is peer-reviewed. None of it should be used for either decision-making, for doctoring. None of it should be used to the media. It was exactly everything you hear in the media. I want to see the science.
Okay.
I'm Senator McNally. I happen to be one of your constituents. I'm from Powell, Tennessee.
Oh, thank you.
It's nice to see you here. Just a lot of people made some of the points that I had wanted to talk about. One of the things I wanted to talk about, of course, was the special session. I really absolutely hope you guys call a special session. I think one of the things that needs to be talked about is the vaccine passports for businesses and higher education. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for most of the past 30 years. I know for a fact, I've read all the science, all the peer-reviewed studies that have been done for the last 40 years that shows that masking does not prevent the spread of any type of virus. Much less COVID. Anything that's come out in the past year in regards to masking has all been opinion-based, and it may prevent the spread. It may prevent some aerosol droplets being spread around. It's all maybe, it's all supposition. As for the vaccines, higher education is requiring them. Maryville College is requiring vaccines to attend. Vanderbilt Hospital is requiring their employees to be vaccinated. I'm getting phone calls in the clinic I work in daily. I'm getting private messages, emails, phone calls, text messages constantly from people begging for some other option, for some way for an exemption. But vaccines, which I can't call it a vaccine either, even after 30 years of nursing. It's all under, as has been said before, it's under emergency use authorization. It is illegal to mandate for federal law something that is under emergency use authorization. You are supposed to have informed consent, which you cannot have because you don't know what the ingredients are and you don't know the long-term effects of this virus, of this vaccine. You're also supposed to be given the option to opt out. They're not giving us that. They're not giving these hospital employees that, Hospitals are good, there are people quitting every day. Nurses are leaving the practice every day because of these passports, because of these requirements. It's got to stop somewhere, and we need to stop it now. The other thing is, the CRT was mentioned. There were some teachers who signed a letter saying that we're going to keep teaching it. The method of enforcement is funding being withheld by Penny Schling. So that is your only method of enforcement with this particular bill. But I'm asking you to please call a special session. These issues need to be dealt with now. We can't wait until next year.
Yeah, one more question.
I want to thank the people who have shown up. It's your job. The reality here very simple, is that we've heard a lot of wonderful statements. I have to agree with 99.9% of them. Talk about VAERS, that verification. 500,000 adverse reactions, nearly 12,000 deaths linked to the COVID experimental biological agent. It's not a vaccine. The state, if you understand the Constitution and have looked at the Constitution, states overrule federal. Don't take my word for it, look it up. The federal government is basically the party put together by the states. I don't know how many researchers you have in your facility. I've got 3 sheets for you that I want to give to you. If you read them, great. I don't expect you to. I don't expect your research team to read them. But the reality here is that the Executive Order 83 that was just passed, and individuals brought this up, and they brought it up well. Right now, Mr. Lee, I'm not even going to call him governor, Mr. Lee signed this authorizing the building of these facilities. They're internal facilities. Now, when he opens, under this executive order, if someone doesn't like what I'm telling you, they can pick my goofy little butt up and send me to one of their facilities. We need to stop the governor from doing what he's been doing. Your responsibility as lieutenant governor. Someone at Vanderbilt's got his ear, and it would be the first time I've heard this from other representatives. They're talking to him day in, day out. Vanderbilt makes a statement, he follows it up, and we get to deal with it. Now, the reality to this is that this scares the living hell out of me. We need to make changes. We cannot allow FEMA camps to be run in this state. We cannot allow our governor to authorize the building facilities. And we cannot authorize our governor or our government.
Everybody for their questions. I know there's a whole bunch more people that want to ask questions, but thank you very much for coming.
Thank you all. Good questions. It's material I'll be glad to take home and go over, or as you suggested, if you can either write me or let me know the specifics on that, I'll be glad to look it up and find out what happened. I thought I'd start with some of the financial highlights of the state. Tennessee has one of the lowest, if not the lowest, per capita tax rate, state taxes on individuals. We've also, which one? Okay. I'm a little technology challenged here. But at the same time, we've got an excellent credit rating. It means we pay our bills. And we'll just go over a few of the highlights. See if it works. Left one. There it goes. And this shows you our rainy day fund that has a balance of over $1.5 million. I'm sorry, $1.5 billion. Our budget is structurally balanced. That means we don't use one-time money to pay for recurring expenditures. We've reduced our debt over the years. In fact, we have no road debt. A lot of states have a lot of road debt, and in turn, when you pay for gasoline, you're also paying interest for that debt. Pension system is fully funded. The next one. Good to go. And, oh, that's okay. We can go to highlights. The state budget, a little over $42 billion. Our retirement system, as I mentioned, is balanced. We added over $100 million to the rainy day fund, bringing it to a total of $1.55 billion. And $100 million to expand broadband, $100 million to give local governments to get them through the problems with COVID. We also passed the constitutional carry bill, which some of you might have.
Hallelujah.
And we banned what's known as critical race theory. That means simply because of an individual's race, they're not bad, and other people, because of their race, are not good. We also work to protect the unborn, although the first judge in Nashville ruled that was, who was it? I don't recall. They ruled it unconstitutional. The appeals court has upheld it, and it's on its way to the Supreme Court. But it would give various protections to the unborn. And I think we've made a great stride in that arena. We also banned government passports, vaccine passports, that is. So that means in order to enter a government building, you don't have to have a passport to show that you've been vaccinated. Also, this year was a little unusual. We expected a real downfall in revenue, and we actually ended up close to $400 million to the good. And part of that was because we did not mandate the closure of a lot of businesses, as some states did. One thing that worries us, if you look up here, building materials, it's way over there, and that's for like new housing. And even though we count that as recurring revenue, we're not sure that it's going to occur every year. The same with car sales, the same with boat sales and things like that. And down at the bottom, you'll see that gas stations are way down. The service industry is way down. Eating and drinking places like this are way down. And so we're looking to see how we do in next year's budget. We will get revenue estimates in December, and then we'll proceed with hearings on the budget, probably sometime in late March, early April. As far as our fiscal stability, we have continued to not take on any debt in the last 3 years. We used one-time money to fund any big projects that would normally be funded. Also, we have a fully funded pension system, and we're the lowest debt per capita in the United States, and that means your children and grandchildren are not going to be stuck with a big debt bill that they'll have to pay. And some of these states have tremendous amount of debt. Okay, the next one. And also our rainy day fund, that's what we use if revenues go down, is enough to get us through with no revenues for about 25 days. Tennessee, as I mentioned, low debt, and that's as a percentage of population, personal income, operating expenditures, and gross state product. And a recent report said that Tennessee's debt to pension liability was the lowest in the nation. We have a AAA credit rating, as I mentioned. We lost that in 2001, and it took us a while to get it back. We were able to get Moody's and Fitch back in 2010, and in 2016 we were finally able to bump up from a AA plus to a AAA. So the three major credit ratings rate us at the top, which means your building principal on the first few years. And we're recognized in U.S. News and World Report as #1 for fiscal stability in 2019. Our unemployment remains low. We've found almost 10,000 new jobs. We have one of the lowest debt per capita. We have one of the highest GDPs in Tennessee history, at bumping up against 400 million. That might be for me.
Probably is.
And the last part, what's happening next year? Well, we want to keep Tennessee fiscally strong. We also want to look at where we can cut taxes. Over the last 10 years, 8 years under Governor Haslam, and 2.5 years under Governor Lee, we've cut $1 billion, a little over $1 billion in taxes to individuals, and change thousand. And on the House districts, it's 69, almost 70,000. Is that right? Lowell?
Yeah, right at 70,000.
And we'll have to do that for all the districts, and what we found is that East Tennessee districts will probably move west, and West Tennessee will move east, and Middle Tennessee will be the beneficiary of it. I don't think we'll lose a Senate seat in doing that. I think we can shift the districts in order to do that. And I don't know about the House side, it's a little more difficult with the 99 members on the House side. But what we're concerned about is states like New York and Michigan. The legislature in New York, for instance, has redistricted out 4 of the 8 Republicans. And in times past, the Democrats actually put 6 Republicans, House members, in a district, in districts with another 6. So that didn't survive the port challenge. But, and another concern that we have is that the Democrats in the federal government are looking to take over the redistricting process. And that's because there are about 30 some odd red states and a lesser amount of blue states. So the red states can control redistricting, and we might be able to develop another Republican congressional seat, which will get us closer to a majority. And I think that, let's see, I think that was the last one. Oh, looking at tax relief and making sure the COVID money that's coming down from the federal government, probably during the Trump administration as well as the Biden administration, it's about $6 trillion, I believe, and that's simply printed money. And that's about it.